Hi, I'm Tony. Welcome to Sports Bike Shop's review of the Leatt ADV 8.5 helmet. This is quite a remarkable helmet really. There's so much to tell you about that I'm worried you might be here for the rest of the week. I'll try to keep it to a little bit less than that, but there is quite a lot to cover. The Leatt ADV 8.5 is part of their first journey into motorcycle helmets designed for road riders, and they really have gone to town on it. Safety is a big part of the story as well, bringing an innovative approach that's come from Leatt's history in off-road motorcycling. Okay, let's get into it then. The shell for this ADV 8.5 is made from a 3-layer composite of fibres. This size medium weighs in on our scales at 1,660 grams. That is reasonably heavy, but I didn't have any trouble at all with the weight of this lid while I was riding in it. If something like that is especially important to you for some reason, there's an ADV 9.5 which has a carbon fibre shell. We've got no stock of that helmet at the moment, so I can't weigh one, but Leatt's claimed weight for that helmet is 45 grams lighter than their claimed weight for this one. I'll talk a bit more about the ADV 9.5 at the end, but the other differences between the two models are relatively small. Okay, so back to this, the ADV 8.5. The peak sits quite high on the lid and it's non-adjustable. I found I either had to pull the helmet down at the front a lot to shield my eyes from low sun or tilt my head forward by an unnatural amount. That then meant I was looking over the top of my glasses to see where I was going. So if you like a low peak to protect you from the sun, there's something to bear in mind with this lid. In terms of aerodynamic performance, I found that hugely depended on the bike I was riding. I wore this helmet on a Suzuki V-Strom 1050 and also a V-Strom 800DE. The 1050 had a reasonably tall touring screen and I experienced a lot of vibration noise from the peak when riding that bike. At anything over 50 miles an hour, that noise became quite distracting. When I switched to the 800DE, which has a shorter screen, the noise went away completely. So other than those vibrations that I had when riding the 1050, I had no issues with the way this lid cuts through the wind on either of those bikes. If I stepped up the speed, I would feel some lift on the peak, pulling my head back slightly, but it wasn't disconcerting at all. If I owned an adventure bike with much of a screen, I'd be looking to remove the peak and run in street mode for any long journeys. That's easy to do, although it does feel a bit brutal. To remove the peak, you've got to pull hard on the two sides and then the two mounts up top. It feels very rough, but there's a bonus to that. You don't have to faff around with small screws and other fiddly little bits and pieces that you'll probably end up losing anyway. There are no spare pieces in the box to blank off the holes where the peak would have mounted, and that means you don't get a particularly neat finish in street mode. Okay, ventilation. That comes through at the chin and under the peak. The chin vent has a rocking shutter that I found quite stiff to operate. It opens up a grille that's protected by a foam filter, and I've got a pretty good flow of air through that vent. That filter comes out for cleaning, and I guess you could leave it out completely if you want a really direct flow of air through there. The two vents above the visor are also a bit tricky to use because the peak gets in the way of reaching them, but they are effective once they're open. Ventilation with this lid in general is good, but I found it easiest to set the vents into position before I started riding. Okay, let's talk about the visor. The ADV 8.5 comes with a light reactive visor fitted as standard, and then there's a regular clear visor supplied in the box. I found the light reactive one to be excellent, although sometimes on a cloudy day it would darken very slightly more than I would ideally want. So that's where the ability to change to the clear visor is handy. So leaving the self-tinting visor raised in bright sunshine did cause me slightly uneven tinting, as some parts of the visor are masked by the peak and don't react to the light, but it was very mild and didn't really cause me any trouble at all. Having a visor like that does away with the need for an internal sun visor, which is great. It cuts down on weight and it cuts down on complexity. The visor is protected against mist by a Pinlock 120 XLT, which is the highest grade available, and I found that worked well for me. If the tension of that Pinlock needs adjusting, then slots on the exterior of the pin make it easy to turn those to alter that tension. In terms of lifting and lowering, as the visor comes down, there are 3 intermediate positions before it comes to rest on the base seal. An extra push then locks it down, and it's easy enough to lift again using the tab at the lower left edge. I wouldn't say this helmet gives you a cracked position as such. Unlocking it doesn't leave a gap around the seal of any note, and lifting it to the first step leaves a bigger gap than I would ideally like. On the plus side, the visor does sit quite strongly in its intermediate steps, and it wouldn't slip down easily as I was riding along. It's easy to remove and refit the visor. You use quarter turn inserts on either side, and as this is what I think of as a pure adventure helmet, you can ditch the visor and run with goggles instead. And you get an extra touch with this helmet. Leatt include a pair of their Velocity 4.5 goggles with this lid. You also get a pair of covers that slot into the visor mounts to give you smoother platforms for the goggle straps. I did some light off-roading in this helmet and found it to be excellent when worn with those supplied goggles. Right, let's go inside the helmet. The foam lining is fully removable and it feels comfortable against the skin. It's made up of a skull pad and 2 cheek pads, and those cheek pads have emergency release tabs in case you're unlucky and need to have your lid taken off for you. But it's behind that lining that the real innovation with this helmet is to be found. Leatt developed their own system to try and improve performance in accidents, which means there are round inserts embedded into the EPS. Those are called 360-degree turbines, as they're able to spin round and round while staying attached to the EPS. They're designed to improve protection against both linear and rotational impacts. A linear impact is a direct hit, and the turbine helps by compressing on impact. A rotational impact is more of a glancing blow. And in these sort of accidents, the turbines help by allowing your head to move slightly against the inner surface of the helmet. I'll give Leatt a lot of credit here, as a scientific research document on their website shows comparative test results for helmets with and without the turbines. It shows how much those turbines improve the performance, especially in lower speed impacts. It's not normal for manufacturers to show that sort of information, but Leatt go even further than that. If you're up for it, you can read the full details of their safety approvals in both the United States and Europe, right down to the G-forces in every impact within those tests. I've never seen another motorcycle helmet manufacturer make that information available at all, let alone add it to their website and make it so easy for customers to see it. That shows huge confidence in the performance of their helmets for what has to be really a lid's primary purpose, and that's something that I feel is especially praiseworthy. Thankfully, I didn't crash and hit my head in this helmet. I've done enough of that to last a lifetime, thank you very much, but I can say I didn't notice the turbines at all while I was riding, and that for me is the telling factor. If it can improve my safety and not even be noticeable, then why would I not want that? Okay, let's quickly cover the rest of the interior. There's no mention of glasses compatibility in the spec for this lid, but mine worked well with this one, and the arms slotted neatly into the spaces just above the cheek pads. Last up, but obviously important, this ADV 8.5 has a trusty D-ring fastener for the strap. Okay, intercoms. There's no official intercom for this lid, so you're free to pick your own. I fitted a Cardo Packtalk Edge to this one, and it was easy enough to do that. There's not enough room for the clip mount to slide between the EPS and the shell, but using the self-adhesive mount gave me a neat location on the side just here. This smooth area of shell suits it perfectly, and it's also the right profile as well. Compatibility on the inside is good too. The speaker recesses are generously sized and they swallowed the 40mm speakers from a Packtalk Edge. The larger 45mm Cardo speakers will sit straight in the recesses as well, but the outer surface of the speaker will be slightly proud, so you'll need some space for your ears. The recesses have Velcro in them already, and it's the same for the microphone recess on the inside of the chin bar. That makes it easy to fit comms to this lid in general. Right, sizing, approvals and pricing. The Leatt ADV 8.5 comes in sizes from small up to double extra large, and there are 3 shell sizes to cover that range. I'm waiting for Leatt to come back to me and confirm where the shell sizes break, so when we've got that information, I'll add it to the description below. I wore a medium, as I do in virtually every helmet, and I would say sizing is accurate. Approvals, the Leatt ADV 8.5 is approved to ECE 2206 for the road, and you can download the certificate and read all the details if you're that way inclined. As I said earlier, there's no ACU Gold approval, so if you want one of those probably for off-road competition, then that might be a bit of an issue. The UK government's Sharp impact testing scheme hasn't issued a rating for this lid as we record this. If they do that, then we'll add that to the description below. In terms of pricing, this ADV 8.5 is £479 as we record this. That might instinctively sound high, but you get a light reactive visor, and one of those can easily be £150 to £200 just on their own. You also get a pair of goggles thrown into the deal. They normally cost 55 quid, so there is quite a bit for your money. Now let's cover off that alternative Leatt ADV 9.5 that I mentioned earlier. The design for the helmet is the same, it's just materials and the strap fastener that change. The key difference is that the 9.5 has a 6-layer carbon fibre shell. The 9.5 ADV also has a Pinlock magnetic strap fastener rather than the D-rings on this lid, and the goggles get an iridium lens rather than the clear lens that you get on the goggles with this helmet. You still get the light reactive visor and a spare clear visor included with the carbon fibre helmet, just like you do with this one. The Carbon 9.5 comes with a higher price tag of £639, so it's a £160 upgrade on this helmet. Okay, let's sum up. I'll give huge respect to Leatt for this lid, which brings something different to adventure motorcycling. Leatt's emphasis on trying to make their helmets safer is something to applaud in my opinion, as I think it's easier to tell a story about a cool helmet than it is about a safe helmet. Adding those turbines inside the helmet and explaining how they make a difference in terms of safety is a really good development. Leatt aren't the first people to choose a light reactive visor, but it is a very welcome addition as it does away with the need for a sun visor. And the way they've not only designed the helmet for use with goggles, but have included a pair of goggles in the box gives another attractive touch. In use, I find the performance depends on the bike you ride. If the screen is more touring friendly, my experience suggests you might struggle with vibrations, although if it's a squatter screen, I think you'll be okay. Having the peak sat up high also made it less useful at protecting against glare, and it's a shame there's nothing to cover up the peak mounting holes if you take that off and run the helmet in street mode. That all adds up to my belief that the ADV 8.5 is tipped a little bit more towards off-road than road use, but on the right bike it's still a thoroughly decent helmet on the road. This is a great entry to road adventure helmets from Leatt, and I look forward to seeing where they take this project next. I hope that tells you everything you wanted to know about the Leatt ADV 8.5 helmet, but if there is anything you'd like to ask or to add, then please pop a comment below. Thanks for watching.